let's start with the recuperation. So we found a lot of dependencies, and on the left side, on the top, you can see always the recuperation in percent out of the consumption, of the total consumption. And it was very interesting that in Europe, your car had a recuperation rate of around about 18%. And in all over Africa, you had 24%. And you talked about Namibia. Yeah, that's really a lot. Yeah. And you talked about Namibia. You heard that the consumption of fuel, gasoline and cars is quite higher than normal. And that's what we figured out, that the recuperation rate in Namibia was even higher, like 35%. And I assume that's
high.
Yeah, and it should be because of the bad roads, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, and especially in whole Africa, I think we drove quite some bad roads with a lot of potholes. So you constantly decelerate, and then after the pothole, you accelerate again, and that's like, yeah, sometimes it's every 1 kilometer or even less that you have to brake. So we did a lot of braking, and that's of course recuperation.
So that means between each hole you have to accelerate and break down the car. Is this the point? Okay.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. Okay, we compared it to our ID4. We have an ID4 in our company, and we compared it to we are driving, of course, most time highways, because driving to customers, to business partners, and we made their investigation. What's the percentage of recuperation? And it varies between 4 and 10%, depending on the location of the road. So within the mountains, the recuperation rate is higher, like 10%, and in the flat area, like northern of Germany, it's like 4%, 5%, so around about.
Yeah.
So that was also quite interesting. Yeah. And on the other side, we did a simulation of the Namibian road. So we drove on the normal road and tried to accelerate for 500 meters and then break down the car to 10 kilometers. So like to stop or to break down before the holes. And then the recuperation percentage raised up to 33%. So it was very high. And we can say, yes, that looks logic and we understand.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But it's quite impressive if you compare it to a fossil fuel car. Then all that energy is lost because you brake, and now it's all usable again. So it's a really big advantage of electric cars, I think.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, and especially for me also was new that especially on bad roads the recuperation is even more important.
Yeah.
Okay, on the right side, I will not go through all the points, but on the right side, we summarize the impacts on recuperation. Of course, in your case, the route, the track where you drove your vehicle is the most important thing. Cabin climatization is not really an effect on your trip because you always had it turned off, or nearly always. So therefore,
always
in your case,
open.
always. And by the way, do you have an all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive? Because that's also, of course, an impact on the consumption.
Only rear-wheel drive.
Okay.